Students, today we'll study another poem from your class 12 syllabus. The name of the poem is Keeping Quiet. This is from your book Flamingo. In this particular video, I'm going to give you the detailed summary of the poem, the theme of the poem, and the entire explanation in English. This poem is written by Pablo Neruda. Now, coming to know in detail about the author, Pablo Neruda, his original name was Neftali Ricardo Reyes Basualto. He was born on 12 July 1904 at Parral in Chile and died on September 23, 1973 at Santiago. He was a Chilean poet, diplomat and politician who was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1971. He was perhaps the most important Latin American poet of the 20th century. His writings are simple, wherein lies their beauty. This poem was originally written in Spanish. Now, something in detail about the poem. You have to remember that this was written in Spanish, and Pablo Neruda, his actual name was Neftali Ricardo Reyes Basualto, and he was a Chilean poet. And he was also awarded a Nobel Prize for Literature in 1971. The sense of this poem is based on introspection and retrospection. The poet feels that some soul searching is needed for us to be at peace with ourselves and others. Now, coming to know something about the poem, this poem, Keeping Quiet, is a call for introspection. Introspection means looking within ourselves. अपने अंदर झांक के देखो. For all human beings who have divided themselves on the basis of race, language, and nationalities. If you see, some people think that this person is dark in color, this person is white, fair in color. Some people differentiate others on the basis of language. Some people differentiate in the basis of nationalities. So all these divisions we have created amongst ourselves. So the poem is presented in the form of an exercise for maintaining silence and stillness. It is symbolic of stopping all the activities and understanding the purpose of the world. Once we are introspecting, then in this moment of silence, we can break all the shackles of discrimination, hatred, violence, and create an exotic moment of togetherness. In such inactivity and silence, we can feel the strength of humanity. So basically, through this poem, Neruda aims to get his readers to think and ponder as opposed to intellectual stimulation. So what is the theme of the poem? The poet believes if speech is silver, silence is golden. For in the vast treasure of deep silence, we can find a large resource of peace and tranquility. Silence creates an exotic moment when one forgets every type of segregation. Wars will come to a standstill, and a feeling of brotherhood prevails. According to the poet, adopting silence and stillness in our life, even if it is for just a while, is very essential, as it will help us to reflect in ourselves and the world. He believes in the adage, live and let live, jio or jeene do. Much of the evil will disappear in the depths of the understandings, silent and inactive life. Life on earth can become a heaven, a bliss for those moments when man does nothing for a while. The poem talks about the necessity of quiet introspection as it creates a feeling of mutual understanding among human beings. Therefore, retrospection and introspection are the two important themes of the poem. Now coming to the poem in detail. Now we will count up to 12 and we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Now the poet says that we will all count up to 12. Now why he has used the word 12? Because 12 is a significant of time. We have 12 months in a year. 12 is the number of hours that we are awake. So that is why when we are doing all our daily routine work, so that is why he has used the word 12 over here. So he's saying we'll all keep still. Keep still means silent. We'll all keep quiet. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. The poet requests us not to speak in any language because according to us, language is the biggest barrier which creates a division between humanities. Once somebody starts speaking Russian, you kind of believe that, oh, he's Russian, he's speaking a different language, he's different than me. So once we are keeping quiet, we'll realize that there is hardly any difference between us. So he's actually requesting you to stop speaking and remove that barrier of language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. Not moving our arms so much means basically not doing our daily routine work. So he believes that all the restlessness in this world will disappear if we basically keep quiet for a while. If all the people on this world keep quiet and introspect. So the poem begins on a note of quiet introspection. The poet asks everyone to count up to 12 and maintain absolute stillness. Number 12 represents the hours of the day, the hours of daylight filled with noise generated by human activity on the months of a year. If you see, the clock also has 12 numbers. So basically it is there from 1 to 12. So 12 is significant of time. He implores, he requests them not to speak in any language and for some time not involve themselves in any movement. People across the nations have to unite together, so they shall not speak their own languages. Rather, they all shall keep quiet and speak the language of silence. For that would prove an opportunity to introspect. This will bring unity among all the humans on the face of the earth. For at least one moment, no one shall move his arms either to signal or to fight or argue with each other. As the harbinger of world peace, Pablo Neruda feels that as long as men are expressing their views, they're expressing their differences, as expressing their unrest will definitely prevail. So thus, keeping quiet is the best antidote for restlessness. Now coming to the poetic devices used is 2 consecutive lines starting with the word let's. Let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second. A lot of people get confused with it as repetition. But actually this is anaphora. When the repetition is being used in the first word of a line, then it is known as anaphora. Now we will not move to our arms. So we will has been used twice. Again, but it is not the first word, so it is not anaphora, but it is repetition. Then alliteration, we will is the same sound is being repeated, so it is alliteration. Now coming to the next stanza, it would be an exotic moment. Exotic moment means the best moment, moment of extreme peace, moment of extreme happiness, moment of brotherhood, without rush, without engines. Now poet says that we are always rushing in doing our daily routine work. If we are not, he's using the word engine. Why? Because engine signify industrialization. Since the advent of industrialization, there has become a lot of restlessness in the world. People have started, prior to industrialization, people needed just very basic things in life. But since this industrialization has cropped up, new things started coming in and people became restless. I don't have this, I don't have that, and there is that hatred, that greed, that jealousy has started cropping up. So the poet says, let's not think about engines. We would all be together in sudden strangeness, and then in that case we will together we start seeing each others as brothers, and then it will be a sudden thing, change as well as strange. Why? Because you've not seen the other person from that point of view. So it is very strange. Till now, you have been considering your colleagues as rivals. I should be better than them. They are also must be thinking the same for you, reciprocating the same for you. But then after you introspect, after you realize this thing that he is also trying to achieve the aspirations of his parents. He is also trying to, he is also under pressure. He is also trying to achieve his own wishes. So basically you now start seeing each other as brothers and not as rivals, and not somebody who is your enemy. So that is why the poet says that it will be an exotic moment, a moment of extreme bliss. The poet believes that this moment of extreme silence will be an exotic one, with no rush of life, no noise of engines. Everyone will be calm and quiet, united with each other in a strange atmosphere. In this moment of silence, in this moment of togetherness, a sudden strange relationship of humanity will bind each other. That moment of deliberate silence will be free of violence and shall permit time for self-introspection. Now coming to the poetic devices, we would, were sound is being repeated. So it is going to be alliteration. Sudden strangeness, sound is being repeated, so it is sudden strangeness. Now the repetition of the word without rush, without engines. Then this is the poetic device used as repetition. Now next stanza, fisherman in the cold sea would not harm the whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Now the poet says that fisherman in the cold sea, it means two things. See, firstly, fisherman symbolizes a fisherman who is actually hunting in the cold sea, and that person will realize that, see, for my own personal selfish needs, I am harming some other species altogether. And extincting whales, which is another organism which has been created by God. So in that case, he will realize, and he will realize only once he introspects, because till now he's been doing his work, not thinking about other people as well. So now he says the fishermen who was hunting in the cold sea, they will not harm the whales, because then they will realize I'm doing something wrong now. Now fishermen also symbolize any man who is doing his regular work, and they will realize still now we were doing everything for our own selfish needs. We are harming so many other species because of our own greed. So they will realize their mistakes. And the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. If now he is talking about, this also represents two things. Anybody who is working for money, this person talks about a person who is working for money. He'll realize that he has spoiled his conscience in order to gain money, although he has gained materialistic wealth, but his conscience, his inner conscience is totally defeated. And the man gathering salt, anybody, also represents any person who is working in the salt industry. That person who's working in the salt industry will realize that, while working, while earning so much money, what has happened to my hands? My hands have become totally spoiled because of it. You use the word salt because salt is NaCl, that is sodium chloride. It's a chemical, and working with chemicals, it really harms your hands. So his hands have spoiled, and at the same time, the inner meaning is he's spoiling his conscience in order to gain the materialistic wealth. So with more time to think about these actions and awareness about their power, men will exhibit their free will and not harming their surroundings. The poet gives the examples of a fisherman not harming the whales, and even the man gathering salt will take out some time from his hectic schedule to look at his hurt hands and reflect at the pain and harm his strenuous task has caused him. And why he's used the word whale? Whale because whale is one creature whose each and every body part is being cut for because you've heard about Botox engines which help in actually making you look young all the time. So it is used by a lot of ladies. It is these engines, these injections, they get themselves injected, and these the whale's body parts are used. It's very rich in vitamin E and vitamin K. So all the body parts of whales are being utilized in making such creams and all these skin nourishing creams. So that is why he's using the word whale. The fishermen symbolize the man's indiscriminate exploitation of nature for his personal vested interests. The poet in these lines creates an image of a man's continuous suffering. In this mad race, he has lost the feeling of the care and concern for his own brethren. He has stopped thinking about other species altogether. So in his efforts to add comfort to his life, he has paid no attention to the pain that he has been causing to himself. However, when sitting still, man will have to look after his own self and heal his wounds. Now coming to the poetic devices, his hurt hands, her sound is being repeated, so it is alliteration. Next stanza, those who prepare green wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors. Now those who prepare green wars, who are those here? Those here stands for politicians, bureaucrats, the scientists who are responsible behind wars. Scientists want war because who will actually think about the nuclear weapons, the new inventories that they are creating, unless and until there is no war. Bureaucrats are the high officials who want wars to take place because then only they'll make money, who are जिनकी फैक्ट्रीज में ये सब एमिनेशन वगैरह बनता है. Then comes the politicians. Obviously, now you're ruling over India. Now you want to rule over Pakistan also. Now you'll rule over China also. So basically, gaining more power. So these are the people hungry for power, hungry for wealth, hungry for recognition. So they, for their own selfish interest, want wars. And what is green wars? Wars against greenery, wars against environment, wars which spoil the greenery of the planet. And wars with gas towns talks about the chemical wars, wars where a lot of toxic gases are being used. Wars with fire talks about the wars where a lot of ammunition is being used. Victory with no survivors. Now, if you think every country has created their own nuclear weapons, if there is war, then obviously there will be no life on this planet. So what is the point in gaining victory when there will be no survivor? There will be nobody to enjoy that victory. So victory with no survivors is an ironical statement which the poet has made here. So those here refers to the politicians, scientists, statesmen who are involved in initiating and aggregating such wars and running after the so-called materialistic advancement. Green wars refer to wars where man wages against man and against nature. Wars against greenery. So man's activities are polluting the nature, and the chemical and the nuclear weapons created by him threaten to bring mankind to an end. So these wars may become victory of man's scientific knowledge, but would lead to mass destruction without any survivors to celebrate that victory. Now coming to the poetic devices, wars with gas, wars with fire. So it is alliteration also and use of repetition as well. Coming to the next stanza, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. Would put on clean clothes means cleaning their conscience. जो blood stained clothes हैं, just because of so much of destruction that they have created, if they remove their clothes and get them clean, cleanse themselves from their conscience, cleanse their inner self, and walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing means trying to bring peace in the world. So doing nothing means doing something basically which is not harming the nature, which is not harming the world at all. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. So this is very important, and it has been asked time and again in CBSE, what is total inactivity? The poet doesn't say that we sit on meditation and think and stop doing our regular work. He says he is propagating constructive activity. He is totally against destructive activities. So poet doesn't want you to be inactive and just sit idle. So if the entire world will sit idle, where will the progress come from? So he is saying, no, I don't want you to be totally inactive. What I am saying is we should indulge ourselves in more constructive work rather than destructive work. So the poet in these lines requests all these people who propagate wars to make a conscious effort of introspection and shed their bloody war garments and wear clean, unsoiled clothes, that is, clean their conscience and adopt a fresh approach to life. This approach would encourage everyone to move together with their brethren under the soft, embalming shade in peace of violence and rage of conflict. Clarifying his views about doing nothing, poet says that his plea of stillness should not be mistaken with passivity or lethargy. What he wants them is to continue with their constructive activities for the good of mankind, develop a sense of belonging amongst themselves, and stop all destructive activities. So life is what it is about. Life is what it is about means life is an ongoing process. Life to chalti rahegi. I want no truck with death. Now, no truck with death is actually idiom, which means actually I don't want anything to do with death. I don't want truckload of death. I don't want any association with death. If they were not so single-minded means single-minded thinking about just your own self, being so selfish, about keeping our lives moving. Keeping our lives moving means continuing our lives towards the path of destruction, continuously moving towards without even thinking what we are doing. So life is an ongoing process. So it is a very simple experience of existing in harmony and appreciating the beauty of quietness. His desire of not to have truck with death, which is an idiom, means not having nothing to do with death. He wants to live his life peacefully without worrying about death. The poet then talks about man's single-minded focus on the progress and advancement without thinking about its consequences. Poet hints on man treading the path of destruction. Trapped in the rat race of competition, he knows no rest or peace. Now coming to the poetic devices, we were sound is being there, so it is alliteration. So single-minded sir sound is there, so again it is alliteration. And for once could perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness. And for once means for once we should just stop and start thinking and introspecting. Then this in this huge silence would interrupt the sadness. We'll realize that why are we so sad? Why are we so dissatisfied? Even though we have made so much of progress as compared to our ancestors, but still there's so much of dissatisfaction in life. Why are we so sad? And then of never understanding and of threatening ourselves that not understanding what do we actually want. We don't understand ourselves. We're just continuously recklessly doing our work, and threatening ourselves with death means once we are creating weapons for others, do you think they will just sit with bangles in their hands? They will definitely react back. So the poet is saying that obviously why are you creating fear of death for yourself? If you attack somebody, obviously they will also retaliate back. So the poet explains the benefit of huge silence by asking the readers to consider a situation when none of us would make a deliberate effort to harm any living being. So that moment would help us introspect the sadness that we experience because of our failure to not understand ourselves better, and escape from the fear of death that has been brought upon us by man only. Now coming to the poetic devices, if you see, I told you in my previous poem also, which is Aunt Jennifer's Tigers, there is no comma or full stop at the end of the sentence. Silence ke baad mein meaning, not after sadness, not after ourselves, and directly the line is continuing till the end, and at last it is full stop after death. So when the line continues in the next line also, then the poetic device used is enjambment. So, and for once could perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death, so it is entirely enjambment. Now, this is the last stanza where he talks about earth, which is the biggest teacher. Perhaps the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now the poet talks about the resurrecting life of quality of nature. What does the earth do? Earth is the biggest teacher in the world. You give it a seed, it will turn it into a fruit-bearing tree laden with fruits with lot of seeds inside. And you give it, we create so much of havoc for the earth. We are walking on it, we are doing so much, we are digging it, but we are using human, but it creates from that dead and decay matter, humus also, it is creating life. उसको भी वो किसमें केमिकल्स में प्रोड्यूस करके एज अ फर्टिलाइजर चेंज करके एज अ न्यूट्रिशन फॉर द प्लांट्स में चेंज कर देती है. See, it talks about as when everything seems dead, talks about the winter season when the entire cupboard is covered with snow. When you think there is no plant life inside, then suddenly winter के बाद क्या आता है? Spring season, and then the entire world is covered with greenery. So it talks about resurrection quality of the earth. When the world seems dead during the winter season and later proves to be alive with the spring season, when the earth is covered with such blooming flowers, such fragrant blooming flowers. So then he says, now I'll count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. So the poet then leaves. He says that I will let you reflect and you keep quiet and you reflect yourself on yourself. What do you actually want in life? So the poet then asks us to learn from the earth, which appears still and lifeless from afar, but is bustling with life when seen closely. It teaches the lesson of preserving and resurrecting life. It teaches us how new life emerges from the ashes of the dead remains. That is what I was talking about, humus. In the same manner, from this hour of silence, introspection and inactivity, one can learn the need to bring all the evil thoughts to an end and to revive a new life of peace and tranquility. Having presented his philosophy, poet leaves the reader alone to sit in silence and personally experience the power of quietness. Now coming to the poetic device, earth is personified as a teacher, just like a teacher acts as a mentor. So earth is also acting like a teacher, as a mentor, as a guide to inspire us. I hope you understood the poem. And if you have any doubt, you can message me. And if you like this video, do like, share, subscribe or comment. Thank you. Happy learning.